President Donald Trump says his attitude towards Assad and Syria has changed. But what does that mean? Could a simple blood test help guide an autism diagnosis? And a soft drink ad fizzles out amid a social media backlash. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. As images showing the immense pain and suffering on the faces of the innocent victims in the Syrian chemical attack continue to reverberate around the world, officials in Turkey say autopsy results on 3 Syrians killed in the air attack have confirmed they died as a result of exposure to chemical weapons. And the 3 Syrians died after they were sent to Turkey, along with at least 30 others, following Tuesday's attack on the rebel-held town of Khan Sheikhoun in northern Idlib province. Turkish authorities say the autopsies were conducted late Wednesday by officials from the World Health Organization. The attack killed 100 people and left more than 350 others sickened, including an untold numbers of children, sparking global moral outrage against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and Russia, the main ally of the Assad regime. President Donald Trump described the attack as an affront to humanity that cannot be tolerated.
It crossed a lot of lines for me. When you kill innocent children, innocent babies, little babies, that crosses many, many lines, beyond the red line, many, many lines.
King Abdullah of Jordan called the attack in a court another testament to the failure of international diplomacy to find solutions to this crisis. Now, just days after declaring that the removal of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was not a priority, the White House this week hinted that it could take further military action in the war-torn country. VOA's Bill Gallo reports.
Syrian children writhing in pain as emergency crews try to resuscitate them. The images sparked worldwide condemnation, including by U.S. President Donald Trump.
I will tell you that attack on children yesterday had a big impact on me. Big impact. That was a horrible, horrible thing.
Speaking alongside Jordan's King Abdullah, Trump said the attack was so horrific that he's rethought his approach to Syria.
It's very, very possible, and I will tell you it's already happened, that my attitude toward Syria and Assad has changed very much.
But just what that means isn't clear. Trump has been reluctant to get involved in the 6-year battle to remove Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Just last week, Trump administration officials said removing Assad was no longer a U.S. priority. At an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council Wednesday, a reversal in tone, when U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, held up pictures of Syrian children killed in the attack and hinted the United States may act on its own.
When the United Nations consistently fails in its duty to act collectively, there are times in the life of states that we are compelled to take our own action.
But Russia's decision to defend its ally, Syria, may limit Trump's options. And tough talk alone won't change the situation, says Sam Wyman, a former CIA officer in Syria who spoke to us via Skype.
The equation in Syria has got to change if you're going to have any kind of settlement. And that means ISIS has got to go, or Assad's got to go, or the rebellion's got to go, or the Russians have got to get out, or we have to get out. There has to be some change in the equation. Right now, effectively, it's a stalemate.
As for Trump, he's made a point of not informing the media about his next decision. Asked Wednesday what he'll do to respond to the attack, he simply said,
"You'll see."
Bill Gallo, VOA News, Washington.
Well, Africa's biggest refugee crisis is getting bigger by the day. Now, thousands of South Sudanese are crossing into Uganda's violence and food security ravages their home country, rather. Now, from northern Uganda, here's VOA's Jill Craig.
The buses keep rolling in, bringing more and more South Sudanese from border points in northern Uganda to refugee settlements, their new homes for the foreseeable future. Here in Busia, only a short footbridge separates South Sudan from Uganda. The newcomers often arrive malnourished, thirsty, and exhausted.
I need to live here because there's a lot of shooting, looting, so we are tired. That's why we need to live here, so that we rest a little bit.
Many of these new arrivals are from Ye and other places in the Equatoria region, which has experienced intense fighting. Overall, more than 816,000 South Sudanese refugees have come to Uganda fleeing violence.
I came to Uganda because life is hard and risky. We do not move because people are killing us, chasing us to the bush, burning us inside our houses. Here, we have a secure life.
And with the violence comes hunger, another push factor.
There is no more food. People are starving. There is no medical access. There are no roads for the food to get into town. When people are bringing the food from the rural areas, the armed men collect it and the people are suffering in the town.
While life at home was difficult, refugees say, so was the journey to Uganda.
For 14 days, we walked day and night surviving on wild fruits and stagnant water.
Fabian Richard Wani trekked for 10 days with his wife, children, and a group of orphans from Ye to the Ugandan border. But he says he still has hope for his country.
And I'm looking for the future of the country. And for us to achieve the peace, we need to be godly-fearing people. And the leaders should also accept their mistakes and they see the suffering of their own citizens so that the future of the country will be very bright.
Refugees in the Ugandan settlements are given a 50-meter by 50-meter plot of land to be used for shelter and cultivation, in addition to food, water, non-food items, health services, and children's education. Jill Craig, VOA News in northern Uganda.
Well, 4 suspected migrant smugglers were killed Thursday in an exchange of gunfire with the Coast Guard off Libya's western coast. The Coast Guard says 2 of the suspected smugglers were arrested and 1 was missing. Clash started when the Coast Guard tried to apprehend heavily armed gunmen guarding a migrant boat. Some 700 migrants were rescued at sea on Wednesday by humanitarian groups operating rescue ships off the coast of Libya. That's according to the Italian Coast Guard. Boats that had been used by the migrants were burned at sea in order to stop them being reused by people smugglers. The International Organization for Migration says migrants arriving in Italy on boats from North Africa are up some 30% this year, and 600 people have died trying to reach Italy. Well, now for more on the migrant situation, Joel Millman, spokesman for the International Organization of Migration, joins us live via Skype from Geneva. Welcome once again, Joel.
Thank you very much.
Now, we have been on this story with you for such a long time. What is your assessment? Are things improving in any way 3 months into 2017?
Well, you'd say in any way, we would point to the access that we're gaining in Libya for chance to interview and return to their countries. Literally thousands of Africans who've been sent home from Tripoli this year on flights that we charter. This began about 2 years ago. Those were very, very difficult maneuvers at that time. We had to bus migrants up to Tunisia, get them on a charter plane back to their countries because airlines and their insurers wouldn't allow their craft into Tripoli. It was just considered too dangerous. And now we're doing 8 to 10 of these flights a month directly from Tripoli. We have one that actually went to Gambia, I think, 2 days ago. We have something else in Nigeria, a program for later this month. And we're looking at close to 10,000 people being released from detention centers and brought home. We consider that a positive step. But of course, everything you've said leading up to this indicates it's still an emergency. It's still a lot of work to be done.
But Joel, of course, you're bringing these people back home, but they don't want to come home, do they? Because they, in the first place, have left home because of the circumstances there.
Well, that's a good point, but you know, our data indicates that we do this for polling in places like Niger. We found that 60% of the migrants that we talked to did not have Europe in their plans and had hoped to work in one of the coastal economies, in particular Libya, which has a tremendous reputation as a jobs engine for sub-Saharan Africa. Despite the violence, it continues to have that reputation. But often these individuals are kidnapped or forced into ransom situations where the kidnappers dispose of them after they've paid by putting them on boats. It's a real crapshoot. They might get to Europe and be rescued. They might perish at sea, as you said, over 600 have this year. So we find that perhaps they don't want to go home particularly, but they prefer home to continuing life in Libya or risking their lives at sea. So maybe not be the best option, but it's what they choose.
Very quickly, what do you make of the violence we reported on at sea today?
Yeah, I got a memo on that a few minutes ago from our people in Libya, so I know our facts are similar to what you reported. We don't know much about it. This has been a very violent area, throughout this year. I can say that we know of over 3,800 rescues at sea by the Libyan Coast Guard along that stretch of the coast. We also know that IOM reported the recovery of 171 victims remain, so it's pretty dangerous.
Well, Joel, thank you very much for giving us your perspectives and the updates. That's Joel. Pleasure. Joel Millman is the spokesman for the International Organization for Migration. And now in Africa, Gambians are voting on Thursday to elect members of parliament in the first legislative election since Adama Barrow became president and former dictator Yahya Jammeh was forced into exile. Now, this is the most important vote in the country after presidential elections in December 2016. The poll is being carried out under a democratic regime for the first time in over 2 decades. Jammeh took power in a coup in 1994. And since then, Parliament was seen as an extension of the presidency. Opposition parties formed a coalition to beat Jammeh last year, but this time, each of them goes to the polls alone.
This is the most important National Assembly elections or parliamentary elections that this country has ever held, because it is taking place at a time when the country has experienced the forced transformation of a regime through the ballot box. What is essential now is to consolidate democracy, and that is inconceivable without an oversight institution like Parliament or National Assembly.
Well, Gambia is one of Africa's smallest countries and has had about just 2 presidents since independence in 1965. Well, President Donald Trump is expressing confidence that his efforts to forge a lasting peace deal between the Israelis and Palestinians will succeed. At a joint news conference with Jordan's King Abdullah Wednesday, Trump said the two will be working together to establish peace in the entire Middle East region. Here's VOA's Latitza Hoke.
Standing alongside the Jordanian leader in the White House Rose Garden, Trump said the two agreed to work together towards finding a permanent peace solution for the Middle East as part of a fight against global terrorism.
And I'm working very, very hard on trying to finally create peace between the Palestinians and Israel. And I think we'll be successful.
Trump called King Abdullah a tireless advocate for a solution and said they will be working closely on this in the days ahead. Jordan's king praised Trump for his willingness to help revitalize the peace process.
The president's early engagement is beginning in bringing the Palestinians and Israelis together has been a very encouraging sign for all of us. And I think, sir, it was that initiative that allowed us at the Arab Summit last week to extend through the Arab Peace Initiative the message of peace to Israel, which we all hopefully will work together to make that come about.
The Saudi proposed Arab Peace Initiative includes a two-state solution as a path toward peace between Israel and the Palestinians. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said there will be no Palestinian statehood under his watch. Last week, the Israeli cabinet approved the building of a new Jewish settlement in the West Bank, the territory considered to be part of a future Palestinian state. Many Palestinians say they have lost faith in the peace process.
This action means that Israel is turning its back to international law, turning its back to the Security Council of the United Nations, and turning its back to the so-called efforts about a new peace process.
Trump has expressed staunch support of Israel. He said the settlements are not an impediment to peace, but he also acknowledged they do not help to advance peace. Trump also has vowed to move the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, but has not yet ordered the move. Latitza Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Coming up, there are simple blood tests that could lead to earlier diagnosis of autism in children. Stay with us.
For science and technology, here's what's new.
Have a seat, grab a book, and breathe pollution-free air while you relax from a filter system that could be fitted to benches, bus stops, even city walls. Dirty air goes in the back, clean air comes out around the user. The system is made by Air Labs, whose CEO is Sophie Power.
So we clean nitrogen dioxide, which is, as you know, one of the biggest problems in European cities, especially where we have many, many diesel vehicles.
Independent testing shows the Air Labs filter removes about 90% of city air pollutants, according to Air Labs co-founder Matthew Johnson.
The air pollution over a city like London could be kilometers thick. You can't clean all of that air, but if you focus on the places where people are, it's a much smaller volume of treated air that you need.
Over 12 million people died in 2012 as a result of an unhealthy environment, according to the World Health Organization. For VOA's What's New, I'm Martin Seacrest.
Well, it's time for our health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Madu with some important news concerning autism. Lino.
Well, developers of an experimental blood test for autism say it can detect the condition in more than 96% of cases and do so across a broad spectrum of patients. The researchers tested 83 children with autism by measuring levels of 24 proteins that have been linked to autism. They found 5 that, in the right combination, seemed most predictive of the condition. While the combination was present in 97.6%, it was absent in 96.1% of 76 normal children. If proven accurate, the test could potentially allow for earlier diagnosis. Most children are not diagnosed until around age 4, although some clinicians can pick it up earlier. Autism encompasses a wide range spectrum of disorders, including profound inability to communicate, and is estimated to affect about 1 in 68 babies. The findings are published in PLOS Computational Biology. Now, a mother of 7, including 2 autistic children, has created a revolutionary new learning program which is changing the lives of nonverbal autistic children around the world, giving them the ability to speak. Joining us now from Los Angeles is Laura Kashbar, founder of Gemini Systems. Ms. Kashbar, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Leonard.
So you created,
nice to be here.
It's really good to have you. You created the Gemini system out of the need for your son. Although you have 2 children, but you saw the need for your son. Can you explain this experience?
Yes, so my children, my twins, were diagnosed with autism when they were 3 years old, and my son did not respond to any therapy. His sister, my daughter, was responding, so I saw what it was supposed to look like. But after months and months of intensive therapy, he still didn't even understand 1 word. So I developed a special way of filming through video modeling. It's a unique way called discrete video modeling, and through this he was able to not only learn right away to speak, but he caught up to his peers by the time he was 8 years old, and he also went to college at 16. He now is in college, he has a job, he is pretty much indistinguishable from his peers.
That's great.
We took what we learned from him.
That's really great. Now tell us about the Gemini system. We know there is computer involved, but what is it concretely, and how do children learn from that?
Well, as you said in your previous segment, most children are not treated for autism until they're 4 years old, but parents really suspect that there's an issue around 18 months to 2 years. And research shows that for children at that age, at 2 years old, who get therapy, 30% of them go into school asymptomatic. The trick is how to get the therapy to children that young. For the first few months, parents are kind of in denial. Then it takes 6 months and a wait list to get a diagnosis. Then after that, you're on another wait list for therapy. With Gemini, which is a web-based delivery system for these discrete video modeling videos, children literally could get therapy the minute parents actually assume or think that there's a problem. So we could push the therapy back from 4 years down to 18 months for everybody globally because it's web-based. We're in Africa. We're actually have a large presence in South Africa. We're in French and Spanish and Chinese, Australian Sign Language. So the sky's the limit. We have plans to put these videos in every language known to man eventually. But right now we're focusing on English. We also launched in Arabic too.
So how long does it take for an average child to respond to this?
Well, about 30% of the children respond within the first week. And then it can take up to 2 years if the connection is really severe. So what we have neurologically in autism, myelin is the insulation that runs along our neurons, and it's been found in autistic people, myelin is less dense. So that appears to be the reason why they have a delay. Sometimes when you ask an autistic person a question, it'll take them minutes or sometimes hours sometimes to answer. And with Gemini, we appear to be having the effect of myelin, is that we're laying down myelin by the children watching these videos, just as if they would do if they were themselves practicing. By doing that, we are strengthening the neural pathways and increasing their efficiency and their speed. Some children's myelin is, I said, more intact than others. So with some children, they can respond sometimes even in the first minute. And we have videos from parents showing us, this is the first 30 seconds, my nonverbal 6-year-old saw the Gemini and he's already talking. We have emails from other parents who 10, 11, 12-year-olds who've been nonverbal their whole life, took 2 years with Gemini for them not to start to talk. I just got an email from a mom, one of these moms whose son took 2 years, and she took a picture of a award her son got, was the Chatty Award in school. And just 2 years ago, he was nonverbal.
That's great, Ms. Kasbah. Thank you so much. Gemini is available online. Thank you so much for joining us today from LA.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that was Laura Kasbah. She is founder of Gemini Systems. And we continue to look at innovation and research in addressing autism. A humanoid robot called Caspar has been designed to engage specifically with children with autism, helping them to interact and communicate with adults and other children. VOA's Faith Lapidus reports.
Autistic children like Finn have a hard time relating to other people, but interacting with Caspar is easier for them. Caspar is a child-sized humanoid developed at the University of Hertfordshire to help children with autism learn social interaction and communication skills through games and songs. The robot is remote-controlled. A teacher or therapist is always involved.
The robot in the hand of a therapist give much more options because the children are interacting with the robot or like to interact with the robot more than if you've seen also sometimes they looking in the face and the eye gaze and all the rest with the robot much more than what they do with the person.
Ben Robbins says Caspar is flexible enough to be adapted to meet the varied needs of the 170 children who've played with him over the past 10 years. It's had a big impact on their behavior, including one boy who could not eat with his classmates.
And then we started doing it with Caspar, and he really, really enjoyed feeding Caspar, making him eat when he was hungry, things like that. And now he's starting to kind of integrate into the classroom and eat alongside his peers.
Reports like that have helped developers refine Caspar's program and appearance and establish its effectiveness.
These long-term studies, it's very important because it's important to see how is there any transference of these skills that they play with the robot into other contexts, like in the classroom or at home. What's happened outside the context of the robot?
Caspar is still a prototype, but its developers say they'd like to see every child who could benefit from the robot get a Caspar. I'm Faith Lapidus, VOA News.
And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter @Lenore Moudou. Vincent, back to you.
Very, very useful information there. Thanks a lot, Lenore. I'll be sure to watch Lenore Moudou's health reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a new ad for a major soft drink falls flat. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. A new ad for Pepsi is falling flat, getting major backlash on social media. At the center of the controversial soft drink commercial, model and Kardashian sister Kendall Jenner seen participating in a high-end photo shoot as the streets flooded with political protesters. Now the model appears to bring an end to the protest by sharing a Pepsi with the police officers, some calling out the scene for exploiting the Black Lives Matter movement. Pepsi says the ad is meant to be about letting go and following your passions, an attempt to appeal to a younger demographic. Well, next up, smartphones are being used for everything nowadays, now from live streaming videos to controlling a home heating. But how about DNA sequencing? Experts in Sweden are using a small, simple 3D printed microscope attachment coupled to a standard smartphone to analyze samples. Scientists used a Nokia Lumia, a smartphone that was cheaply purchased on online marketplace eBay. The 3D printed microscope attachment allows scientists to view individual cells. This allows them to analyze DNA chains and detect variants, telling them what form of cancer, bacteria or virus is involved. The technology raises the prospect of carrying out the same kind of analysis in remote areas or places where the technology is too costly. Well, and finally, Amazon.com founder Jeff Bezos says he is selling about $1 billion worth of the internet retailer's stock annually to fund his Blue Origin rocket company, which aims to launch paying passengers on 11-minute space rides starting next year. Blue Origin had hoped to begin test flight with company pilots and engineers in 2017, but that probably will not happen until next year. According to Bezos, ultimately the plan is for Blue Origin to become a profitable, self-sustaining enterprise with a long-term goal to cut the cost of spaceflight so that millions of people can live and work off Earth. According to Forbes magazine, Bezos has a net worth of $78 billion. And that is what is trending today. And that's our show for today. Now be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings, today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching. From all of us, have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. An alley is a narrow path between or behind buildings.
Up one's alley.
Does this expression have to do with city streets?
Jonathan, do you have any friends who teach singing?
Hello. I am a singer.
You are? Oh, awesome. Do you